But like, if I die tomorrow, I know I would go with a smile on my face.
Bruh, when a man drowns, you usually get one headline: man drowned. That's it. End of story. But with Malcolm-Jamal Warner, oh no, the media turned his death into a full-blown soap opera. First, it's tragic accident with daughter. Then it's oops, not the daughter, it was a male friend.
Costa Rica have completed the autopsy on Malcolm-Jamal Warner and confirm he did die of accidental drowning.
And then, plot twist, actually, he went swimming solo before sunrise. Excuse me? That's not reporting. That's improv night at the newsroom. If your death story changes more than Kanye's album release dates, somebody's lying. And the funniest part? Every new version made the whole thing sketchier, like they were actively competing in the worst cover-up Olympics. Gold medal secured. Imagine you order fries at McDonald's and the worker says, actually, it's a salad. Wait, no, it's ice cream. Nah, it's just a napkin. That's literally how they handled Warner's death reports. Pick one, people. You can't drown with 3 different companions in one afternoon.
And from the water. One of them was in critical condition. The other was Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Tragically, the beloved actor died at the scene.
Let's be either the man was swimming with his daughter, his buddy, or the damn Loch Ness monster. The constant rewrites scream one thing: somebody's scrambling to get their story straight. And when elites scramble, it's never because of bad memory, it's because receipts exist. This wasn't sloppy journalism. This was, let's toss spaghetti at the wall and see which lie sticks.
They worked on Mr. Warner for at least 30 minutes, and then he was unfortunately pronounced dead. That was there with a practice surfboard and was able to get the daughter out. He put her on the surfboard.
No spoiler, none of them did. Here's where the story goes from sketchy to Netflix, call me, I got a script. Turns out Warner's wife wasn't even in Costa Rica during the so-called family vacation. Hello? How do you mess up that detail? It's like saying Beyonce was at the Grammys when she was literally on tour in another country. So if she wasn't there, who exactly was this family vacationing with him? And why did they try to spin it like she was nearby? It smells like somebody staged the vacation as a cover story and then forgot to fact-check the basics. Rookie mistake. Elite overlords. Y'all need better interns. An anonymous vacationing doctor said he rushed to the scene after hearing screams and only found Warner's body. That's right. No daughter, no friend, no Baywatch extras flailing around. Just one man.
And keeping your sanity, it's not easy, man. And when you try to explain it to people, you know, more often than not, they don't get it. And then it's just it becomes the individual journey.
So why were news outlets out here writing fan fiction about Warner struggling with 2 other people? If you've ever been to a beach, you know what drowning isn't exactly subtle. People scream, wave, panic. But this doctor described spotting Warner like he was a shadow underwater. Mysterious, quiet, almost staged. And the weirdest part? The story shifted after this doctor's testimony surfaced, almost like they needed to bury his version before it caught traction. Classic elite move: erase the eyewitness, keep the chaos. Something's fishy. 3 doctors and a volunteer lifeguard performed CPR on Warner for 45 minutes. They even broke out the defibrillator. Bro, people come back to life from worse. Drowning victims with far less medical help have survived. Yet Warner, nothing. Not even a flicker. Are we seriously supposed to believe 3 trained professionals couldn't revive him?
Malcolm-Jamal Warner, dead at the age of 54 on a drowning accident while he was vacationing with his family.
The title is combating the narrative of Black life or Black culture that the media focuses on.
Nah, this wasn't a riptide, this was a ripoff. It's giving somebody made sure revival was impossible. Like, maybe the water wasn't what killed him. Maybe it was just the perfect alibi. Because if 3 doctors can't bring you back, odds are something stronger than the ocean pulled you under. Alright, so here's the plot twist. Hollywood wishes it wrote. Reports said 2 people were pulled from the water. Warner and some other man in critical condition. But after that, poof. The second guy disappears like he had the Infinity Gauntlet. No updates, no follow-up, not even a thoughts and prayers tweet. Bruh, if I stub my toe, my group chat knows in 2 minutes. Yet a whole human nearly dies alongside Warner, and the media collectively says, yeah, let's forget him. That's not just suspicious, that's sinister. Either the second man saw something he wasn't supposed to, or his identity would have cracked the whole case wide open. Either way, the cover-up game was strong. Too strong. So let me get this straight. A famous actor drowns on a popular beach.
Has this been difficult for you?
Yeah. Because when you watch someone who you know and love, go through what he's going through.
And conveniently, there are 0 lifeguards on duty that day. What? Were they on strike? At brunch? Watching Netflix? Nah, they admitted they didn't have the resources to patrol. Translation, oops, no witnesses with whistles, just a bunch of clueless tourists. And out of all those tourists, the only qualified savior just so happened to be a random doctor vacationing nearby. I'm sorry, but that's giving scripted cameo. It's like the elites said, we need a doctor in this story for credibility, but not too many lifeguards who could mess it up. The whole thing feels less like an accident and more like a movie set. Except this time, the script supervisor was working overtime. Before the drowning story dropped, Warner was literally caught on video landing in Costa Rica, smiling, cracking jokes, radiating good vibes.
Running for shade. And aren't you tired of being hustled and played? And aren't we all tired of crying about how hard it is to be black in America, even if it looks like we've got it made?
And oh,
Eddie really did not get along.
In real life?
In real life.
I did not know this.
Yeah. Like we didn't get. But every single week before taping, we'd come together, we'd put our hands together, we'd bow, and we'd pray.
that is not the face of a man about to stage dive into the afterlife. He looked hyped for the trip, like a dad ready to order too many pina coladas and embarrass his kid on the dance floor. And then days later, we're supposed to believe he accidentally drowned? Come on. If you've ever seen a happy uncle at a barbecue, that's the vibe Warner was giving. You don't go from life is great to tragic accident in 48 hours without something or someone forcing the switch. The lie doesn't match the energy. Period. Here's the kicker. Warner wasn't some amateur flopping around in the kiddie pool. Friends and fans said he was a strong swimmer. And trust me, if you've ever been strong at something, it doesn't just vanish. Michael Phelps doesn't suddenly forget how to float. So, when the media tried to sell he drowned in a rip current, people weren't buying it. The man knew how to handle water, which means one of two things. Either the ocean suddenly became sentient and picked its victim, or someone made sure he never had the chance to swim back. Honestly, blaming the waves feels lazy, like blaming gravity when you drop your phone. Nice try, but we're not stupid. Those shifting stories weren't updates. They were straight-up gymnastics. And not the Olympic kind, more like the drunk uncle at Christmas trying to do cartwheels.
Just wanted to remind you, as I remind myself, that no matter what's going on, there's always a reason to smile.
Every correction looked worse than the version before, like someone scrambling to tape together a script they hadn't rehearsed. That's how you know it's not about facts. It's about control. Somebody was clearly working overtime to reshape the narrative before the truth leaked out. And when powerful names are on the line, sloppy lies are better than dangerous truths. They'd rather look clumsy than guilty. Think about it. The messier the story, the easier it is to confuse the public. Oh, it's too chaotic. Guess we'll never know. That's the trick. But here's the real tea. Chaos isn't confusion, it's camouflage. If they can bury the truth under a pile of contradictions, most people will eventually give up trying to dig. Every conflicting version isn't a mistake, it's a smokescreen. And behind that smoke, the real story stays untouched, protected, and hidden in plain sight. Forget iCloud leaks, this was the ultimate USB of doom. Reports claim Warner had a flash drive loaded with names, dates, and dirt on politicians, Hollywood moguls, and media elites. Not gossip, not whispers, hard data.
Pulled him up and put him on top of the surfboard and gave the 5 respiration.
Basically, a digital Molotov cocktail. And you know how powerful people get when receipts start piling up? They panic like toddlers caught with crayons on the wall. If that drive was real, Warner wasn't just carrying files. He was carrying ammo. The kind of ammo that makes billionaires sweat through their silk shirts, sends PR teams into DEFCON 1. We're not talking about scandals that dent reputations. We're talking about evidence that could crater entire careers, topple brands, and shake institutions. And suddenly, his drowning feels less like an accident and more like an IT department's worst-case scenario. Somebody didn't want those files hitting daylight, and they didn't just crash his computer, they crashed him. Warner wasn't silenced by the ocean. He was silenced because he held the key to opening doors the elites would burn kingdoms to keep shut. And guess what? They got their wish by erasing the man holding them. Warner wasn't some has-been actor hanging on to scraps of fame. He wasn't fading out, he was gearing up. He was a man sitting on a nuke disguised as a thumb drive. Insiders whispered he was ready to let the world peek behind Hollywood's curtain, to finally put receipts to the rumors everyone pretended not to hear. And then, right before the curtain could lift, he drowns. Bruh, the timing couldn't be more sus if the Grim Reaper showed up in a Hawaiian shirt with a GoPro. Imagine it. Planning your big truth bomb moment, lining up your legacy, setting the stage, and then mysteriously dying right before it happens. That's not coincidence, that's choreography. That's someone cutting the mic before the show even starts. Warner's sudden accident wasn't about water or waves. It was about timing. Perfect timing. Too perfect. Whoever had the most to lose clearly knew the countdown and stopped the clock. Warner didn't just die in the ocean, he got deleted from the script. Permanently. And the scariest part? The script doctor wasn't Mother Nature. It was whoever decided the show couldn't go on if Warner was still speaking. What kind of family getaway comes with 3 different versions of events? No wife on location, missing lifeguards, and a disappearing second victim. Answer: not a vacation. A setup. Costa Rica wasn't a holiday, it was the stage. Think about it. Exotic location, limited witnesses, thin oversight, and endless ways to spin the story afterward. That's not random bad luck, that's logistics. Warner walks in smiling, full of energy, ready for paradise. Then suddenly, paradise bites back. Nah, that's not a trip, that's a trap. Beaches don't rewrite timelines, waves don't erase lifeguards, and family getaway doesn't usually mean fractured alibis and missing players. The inconsistencies aren't noise, they're signals. And here's the kicker. An exotic backdrop is the perfect disguise. To the outside world, it looks like another tragic vacation accident, a headline swallowed up by the "oh, how sad" cycle. But beneath the sand and surf, the holes in the story scream louder than the waves. The beach wasn't the enemy, it was the set dressing. The cleanup crew didn't just erase Warner, they weaponized paradise itself. Nice try, elites, but the script isn't holding. So the flash drive allegedly leaks, but not to us, not to journalists, not to the public. Nope, it goes straight to the feds, which is basically the government version of shoving it in a desk drawer and forgetting it exists. The story we were fed was ongoing investigation, but let's be real. If those files truly had elite names, the feds holding on to it is less about justice and more about leverage. Think about it. The public wanted truth, families wanted closure, fans wanted answers. But institutions want control. That drive becomes less a piece of evidence and more a bargaining chip. A silent nuke to pull out in smoky back rooms when favors need trading. The names inside aren't being investigated. They're being protected until someone powerful decides they're better weaponized as threats. And that's the tragedy of it all. Warner didn't just vanish. His voice got absorbed into a machine that feeds on secrets but never releases them. He became the middleman in a game way bigger than himself, a pawn sacrificed to make sure the king stayed standing. That drive might still exist, but unless it benefits the powerful, don't hold your breath waiting for the upload. And then, because this circus wasn't wild enough, Bill never should have spoken Cosby decides to weigh in. Bro, the audacity. Media outlets actually asked him for a comment on Warner's death. That's like asking a wolf for its thoughts on missing sheep. Predictably, Cosby tried to spin it sentimental, comparing Warner's death to his own son's tragedy. But the internet wasn't having it. Within minutes, timelines lit up with mockery and rage. One user nailed it. "Nobody cares what you think. You forfeited your caring person card." Savage and deserved. But here's the kicker. By letting Cosby's name creep into the conversation, the media didn't soften the story, they deepened the shadows around it. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Warner's drowning. It became about proximity, about connections, about the uncomfortable web Warner was part of. Whether intentional or not, invoking Cosby dragged everything into a darker context. Cosby's comment hijacked the narrative, but it also underscored the real unease. Warner wasn't just some actor who died tragically. He was part of a legacy already tainted by scandal, and his death suddenly looked less like a tragedy and more like another chapter in a story the industry has spent decades trying to bury. Hollywood has more skeletons than a Spirit Halloween store, and the rumor mill says Warner's flash drive had the receipts on child star abuse. Think less TMZ gossip, more career-ending expose. The theory? He wasn't hoarding names for fun. He was keeping an insurance policy. And trust me, nothing terrifies elites more than someone who actually kept receipts. This wasn't idle chatter or hazy recollections. It was allegedly concrete. We're talking names, dates, connections, maybe even recordings. If Warner really had that kind of material, he wasn't just an actor anymore, he was walking around with a nuke in his pocket. A single upload could detonate decades of carefully constructed reputations, shred billion-dollar brands, and drag once untouchable figures into the spotlight they've spent fortunes avoiding. The tragic part? Child star abuse isn't shocking news. People have whispered about it for decades, brushed it off with euphemisms, or buried it under NDAs. But what made Warner dangerous wasn't the whispers. It was the proof. Proof doesn't just create scandal. It creates accountability. And accountability doesn't just ruin reputations. It ruins empires. That's why Warner wasn't just a man with a secret. He was a threat to the system itself. Another former Cosby Show child actor, Louis Theroux, also died the very same week as Warner. Coincidence? Please. That's like Taco Bell and your stomach lining both giving out in the same hour. Technically possible, but highly suspicious. Two child stars, same show, both gone within days? It practically writes itself. Cleanup crew, double shift. Hollywood loves sequels, but this death double feature was too on the nose. You don't need to be a detective to see the pattern, you just need to pay attention. If Warner's death was the fire alarm, Theroux's passing was the smoke detector. One could be written off as tragic circumstance, but two? Back to back? That screams, somebody is house cleaning and fast. And here's the kicker. Theroux wasn't even on the radar the way Warner was. He wasn't in the spotlight, wasn't stirring the pot, wasn't dropping breadcrumbs about legacy or secrets, which makes his timing even more suspect. When the supporting character gets written out right after the lead, you have to ask, who's directing this script? Let's be real. If you believe that's random, I've got beachfront property in Ohio to sell you. Deaths like these don't stack up neatly unless someone's stacking them. Enter Eddie, Warner's co-star and real-life friend. Instead of parroting the tragic drowning line, he straight up called it what we're all thinking. Suspicious as hell. He said, "I don't believe that man drowned." And you could feel the mic hit the floor. That's not conspiracy Twitter. That's someone who broke bread with Warner, worked beside him, laughed with him, and still smelled something rotten. When someone that close refuses to co-sign the official script, it forces you to stop and listen. Months before all this chaos, Warner started talking about legacy. Not in a cheesy Instagram caption way, but in the serious, reflective, I know something's coming way. He said he was proud to live a post-Cosby life with integrity and wanted people to remember him that way. Bruh, that's not nostalgia, that's foreshadowing. When someone that grounded starts emphasizing how they'll be remembered, it usually means they're sitting on a truth bigger than... Because when someone with Warner's reach disappears, the ripple isn't just personal, it's structural. He was connected to major studios, political donors, and corporate backers who all had skin in the game. If Warner spoke, careers could crumble, billion-dollar deals could collapse, and reputations polished over decades could be shredded overnight. That's not a risk powerful people take lightly. The vanishing of his projects wasn't coincidence. It was a cleanup operation, erasure disguised as business as usual. History shows us that when institutions close ranks, it's rarely to honor the fallen. It's to protect the living. The silence around Warner wasn't empty, it was heavy, calculated, and deliberate. It leaves us with one conclusion. Warner's death was less an ending and more a transaction, the price paid to keep certain secrets buried. So, what are we left with? A drowning that reads more like a script rewrite, a flash drive that vanishes into federal purgatory, and a Hollywood machine that suddenly forgets one of its own existed. Too many contradictions, too much smoke, not enough air. If this were just tragedy, the story would have ended with a headline. Instead, it unraveled into a maze of cover stories, vanishing witnesses, and timing so perfect it feels rehearsed. Warner's death isn't just a mystery, it's a mirror. It reflects how power protects itself, how chaos gets weaponized as camouflage, and how truth dies quieter than any man in the water. Whether the flash drive still sits in some government drawer or got scrubbed into digital ash, one thing's certain: somebody somewhere is sleeping easier because Warner isn't here to talk. And that's the chilling part. Not that Warner died, but that his silence became someone else's survival. His legacy wasn't just the work he left behind, it's the questions he forced us to ask. And until those answers surface, the waves that took him will keep crashing over the same truth. Warner didn't just drown, he was drowned in secrets.